You're live.
It is Friday, the 20th, and we are the Senate Transportation Committee, and we are here with Damian Leonard from Legislative Council, and we are talking about S326.
Morning. For the record, I'm Damian Leonard from the Office of Legislative Counsel. You should have draft 2.2 in front of you, dated yesterday at 4:41 p.m. So the first three sections, you heard from Chair Emmons from the House this past week about the changes they're making, and these have been updated to match what's in their version of H549, with the addition in the first section of the technical changes that were proposed on non-driver identification cards to clarify that you can't have both a non-driver ID and an operator's license at the same time. So the changes from the on the issuance of non-driver IDs to individuals who are either sentenced or detained in a correctional facility begin down on page 3. So in M1, the only change from the underlying language that we had is changing committed to the custody of the Commissioner of Corrections to in a correctional facility. And we're going to define correctional facility to match up to Title 28. The submission of documentation required for non-real ID or real ID is language that was from the underlying miscellaneous motor vehicle initial draft. And then on lines 8 through 12, the old language said that the Department of Corrections would inquire with an individual about their desire to obtain a non-driver ID or any driving credential. We've updated that to non-driver ID, operator's license, or replacement learner's permit, just to track the new language that's being added in the sections to follow.
That's what page are you on?
I'm sorry, this is page 3.
Oh, I'm waiting. Sorry.
Page 3, lines 8 through 12.
Oh, I see.
Uh,
And this is, I apologize, I was not here for Rep. Emmons' testimony, so
okay,
if I understood you correctly, this is all reflecting what they were hoping to see.
yes.
Okay. That's really all that I would.
Yeah. Essentially what I did is I worked with my colleague Hillary, and I took the language that she had worked on with the House Corrections and Institutions Committee, and from subsection M onwards in section 1, it reflects their work. Before subsection M, it reflects your initial bill. And so that the additional work from them that you had not seen before is starting on line 17. This provides that an individual who is detained for 6 months or more in a correctional facility is eligible for non-driver ID, and is if an individual, sorry, good morning already. So, if an individual who's detained for 6 months or more in a correctional facility is eligible for a non-driver ID, the Department of Corrections, as soon as reasonably practicable, shall obtain the documentation required. And then going on to page 4 and provide the individual with the documentation at the time of release. So the reason for the difference here is because when an individual is detained, you don't know exactly when they're going to be released versus when they're sentenced. You have a clear release date.
And that was the main point that was raised by Chairman Emmons. Or chairs.
Yep. And so the application would include the post-release mailing address and proof that the individual is a resident of Vermont following release from the correctional facility. And then upon proper application and submission of the required documentation following release, an individual who is detained for 6 months or more would be provided with a non-driver ID for a fee of $0. So essentially, with an individual who's sentenced, the work is done ahead of time so that they can be given the non-driver ID on release. With an individual who's detained, they have to go to the DMV following release to get that non-driver ID because you just don't know when the release is happening.
Right, I think this is good, but it's definitely better than what happens now. Sometimes sentenced people are not, don't leave automatically when their sentence ends. So I just don't want people to think about, to think that that's always the case. But this is definitely better. It's important for folks to be able to.
So my hope is in the timetable that if we're all ready to go, except for the language about inspections, in that we would have the hearing in the next day unless we heard something that we needed to react to in the hearing, as we would vote the bill out like on Wednesday. So that would mean probably not until like the end of that week, Friday, that we would be up for reading. So if your committee could just breeze through this and just,
Right.
so if anybody asked, we could say that you.
Yes,
And it would just be.
will do.
Yeah, one.
Just the corrections.
It's actually sections 1 through 6 now.
Okay.
Oh,
see.
1 through 6.
We'll see.
Okay.
Things have had to get split out because of timing issues. So one of the things that I want to highlight here is that section 1 and then the other sections on detainees all have a January 1, 2027 effective date in the current proposal.
Mhm.
The sections on sentenced individuals for operators licenses and learners permits are July 1, 2026, and that reflects how quickly DMV and DOC think they can implement this proposal. So there will be extra time needed to implement an MOU and working procedures for detainees, is my understanding.
So that's back here, right?
Yeah. So the one question that I think I would raise with section 1 is whether it needs to be split into 2 sections because of the real ID language and the not having 2 forms of ID language, whether we need to do that on July 1 instead of letting that wait another 6 months. And I would just defer to the DMV to weigh in on whether they think that needs to be split. It's a very easy change for me to make to the bill before you vote it next week. So
So we do it.
and then, as I mentioned, on the bottom of page 4, we're defining correctional facility to have the same meaning as in Title 28, Section 3. And so that's a standard definition there. So we're not having any confusion about what we're referring to here. Section 2 is the replacement license language that was in that you've seen before. So this is for an individual who's sentenced to serve a period of imprisonment. The only changes here are the use of correctional facility rather than custody of the Commissioner of Corrections. And then we tweaked the language a little bit around post-release mailing address and proof that the individual will be a resident following release from the correctional facility. House Corrections and Institutions just wanted to be really clear about when are they a resident of Vermont for purposes of getting the ID. So those are the changes in this section. In section 3, this provides the replacement license language for an individual who's detained. So the language tracks with the prior section in that it provides that they would, to the extent practicable, seek to get the documentation to the individual to then provide it to them upon release. And then that the individual would have to include their post-release mailing address and proof that they're a resident of Vermont following release. And then submit the application themselves, at which time they would get the replacement license for $0. And again, using the standard correctional facility definition. And then in sections 4, this is the learner's permit language for incarcerated individuals. Same as before, where we've just updated the term correctional facility and clarified that it's post-release mailing address and residency. And then in section 5, this does the same thing for detainees. Again, tracking before where the documentation is provided on release and the detainee goes to the DMV to get the credential themselves. And then in section 6, this is an update to Title 28, Section 102, the responsibilities, powers of the Commissioner of Corrections. And it adds that the Commissioner is charged with the responsibility to, and then I'm on to page 8 now, to coordinate with the DMV to provide eligible individuals with non-driver identification cards and documentation pursuant to 23 VSA 115 M&M, replacement operators licenses and documentation pursuant to 23 VSA section 613 C and D, and replacement learners permits and documentation pursuant to 23 VSA 617 G and H. So this is a sort of technical change that I would have overlooked. So appreciate my colleague catching that. So that is the credential sections there, sections 1 through 6. Questions?
Unless I hear anything, we would like you to look at it before we get to the floor in institutions, but
Yeah,
I think we're all ready to go with this.
yeah,
Right.
I think it's good.
Right. The next section is open.
Yes, and this has not changed. This is the insufficient funds received for fees section where it's being expanded to electronic funds transfers, including credit and debit charges.
Yeah.
I believe the committee is waiting to hear more from the department on this section,
Okay.
and is holding it open for the time being. Section 8 is the smuggler's notch.
I think I thought these sections I want to focus in on those sections that we are, we had a disagreement around. So we've got,
Okay.
go ahead.
To that point, Chair Westnish, I'm assuming that every section that we've kind of gone through that we've talked about is kind of a check, yes,
Yep,
we're done with.
yep.
Is that a good way to think about
Well,
it? at this
that's a
point?
good way to think about it. I thought when we get to Wednesday after the hearing, we'll settle and then we'll do one final run through and then vote.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is I would vote for all the sections we've discussed at this point.
Right.
So that's
We-
kind of how I'm.
but
and
we've
I'm
got-
not
We
raising
do
the
have,
last-
we do have the trailer issue.
Yeah.
We do have, the issue of the car we have a few open. I'd like to stick to those open
Yeah.
Okay.
spots right now.
Right.
So just to clarify, we just left 7 open, waiting for language. That's
7
so
is,
far.
yeah, and I think that one is more waiting for additional testimony from the department.
Okay.
Um,
Good.
Damien, are you able to make one of those sheets where it's like set
He
that?
has a sheet like that.
I can update it this afternoon.
Amazing.
So, yeah.
That would be very,
I'm booked until about 1 o'clock, but after that I can work on one.
So
So
you can email it to everybody.
I can.
hallelujah.
All right.
The next open,
Let me put a reminder for myself. Perhaps I get back to my office today.
I have the open sections, but I gave my note on the open to Megan.
I still have it.
Well, thank you.
Oh.
There we go.
Yeah.
Insufficient funds. And then the purchase and use piece, which is 13 and 14.
Mhm.
And then, the section 16, CDL, and voting the emergency vehicles.
Yeah, so we are actually, the numbers have changed, because of the additional sections
Yep.
from the house. So purchase and use is back to, well, it used to be 15 and 16, then it was 13 and 14, now it's 16 and 17. So, and with purchase and use tax, I understand from the department that there is another proposed change. So this language here tracks actually what you saw in the last draft. My understanding, and I'll defer to the department on this, but my understanding is the proposal is to go from shipping weight to gross vehicle weight rating, or GVWR, which is a rating of basically max load capacity for a vehicle that's produced by the manufacturer. And to change the threshold on that, I believe to 13,500 pounds, versus shipping weight right now, which is essentially the unladen weight apart from engine fluids. Of the
So can
vehicle.
you point to what, where
So
is that?
on page 20,
Okay,
we would be striking shipping weight, the definition of shipping weight there, and replacing it probably on the prior page with a definition of gross vehicle weight rating.
I think,
I don't see
I
it.
think your page numbers are a hair off.
they're not
we-
right.
I got that on page 21 at the top,
Oh.
line 221.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, shipping
Okay.
weight means,
I'm sorry,
Sorry.
the, not sure why that happened. Oh,
2.5.
my apologies, my laptop was just updating slowly. It told me it was
Oh.
still on page 20,
Hey.
but
We're working on
you're
it.
right, line 2 of page 21, shipping weight.
okay,
So that definition will be struck, and then a new definition of gross vehicle weight rating, or GVWR, will be added. And then going into section 17 on, also on line, page 21, line 20. We would change motor vehicle with a shipping weight of up to 10,099 pounds to motor vehicle with a GVWR of up to 13,500 pounds.
I don't.
we don't have
Okay, yeah,
that
that's-
specific language in.
We have D
D.
motor vehicle.
Yep, so
What
motor
is shipping
vehicle,
Oh,
so you would
Yeah.
strike shipping weight and replace that with GVWR,
Oh, we
and
have,
then strike 10,099
Oh,
and
you're
replace
talking
that with
about
13,500.
Proposed.
so it hasn't been that.
This is the department's proposal,
Okay,
so, and I'll let them speak to that.
Yep.
do we have a copy of that or?
We had emailed it last night.
Yeah,
It's like an amendment.
So it was
So-
check on
13,000.
13.5
I don't think I have that. I just got it.
And it
Well,
should be
every
the-
specification.
GVWR,
GVWR.
gross vehicle weight. And so without going through every instance where that will show up, this will get repeated 3 times throughout, because there are 3 different ways the tax is applied, depending on whether you're, whether you bought in state or out of state, et cetera. And I think that's the change. Otherwise, the language is staying as is, but again, I'll defer to the department.
That's the main part of this. So why don't we at this point
You want me
get
to
both,
swap?
yep, and, we're gonna want to hear from both, so however you want to do this.
It might need to check.
Go.
There's, I have one here.
Yep.
what we got?
Oh, is this?
Just do wait.
Oh, no, you said the 13th, 14th, this is. I'll post that. Okay, yeah, that would be awesome.
Good morning, Andrew Carter, Commissioner DMV.
Matt Cota with Metal Hill.
So, as Amy mentioned, we discussed yesterday, we also brought in, Vermont Truck and Bus as well, for some consulting on this. We decided to go with the gross vehicle weight rating, which, is a sticker that's on the side of the vehicle, and it gets us out of what we consider the pleasure vehicle section. Most 1 tons, when you, crew cab with dually, the max is 14,000. We brought it down 500 pounds just to capture, because I know there's some dualies that are out there that are more commercial based for use. And it will probably still be a very, very small sliver of people that could, I don't want to say exploit that, but utilize that section. But I think we're intending this to not hang up industry or commercial customers. So we think that 13,500 pound number is the right number, at least for right now. And you can always revisit this at a later time if needed, but I guess an important change.
Really doesn't change any of the present policy, but it narrows the loophole.
Correct.
It doesn't totally close off the loophole, but it narrows it significantly.
To a very small band that I guess who were able to drive literally a 1 ton dually that would fall in a 13,500 or higher category, which is a very small number of vehicles.
So why don't you, however you two want to talk, introduce yourselves and speak about this, and then we'll open it up for questions.
Matt Cota, Meadow Hill, on behalf of the Mafia Farmers Distributors Association. I think this is a good compromise. I think the ability to use what the MSO, and I have an example if the committee would like to see what it looks like as an official document, it looks like a title. It's much more persuasive and much more grounding than perhaps which is also an excellent idea, which is an affidavit or purchase or a potential. That's a great pathway, but having a actual certificate MSO from the manufacturer that states what the gross vehicle weight rating is, I think is a more official document, a more accurate document. So I think this is a good compromise.
So is this the sticker on the inside of the door?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
Well, it could be
an MS, if I may,
Yes,
an MSO looks like that. So this is the Freightliner.
Okay, that looks very.
This is the Freightliner M2 that I was referring to. So it states very clearly Freightliner M2, which.
But is it the same as what you see? On
Yeah,
the
it's
side of the
also-
vehicle, like when you buy it?
yeah, placard
Okay.
usually in the door panel, but it could be other spots.
in when someone purchased that vehicle, it will say what that shipping weight is, and it will also say what the gross vehicle weight rating is. And
So those are two different numbers?
yes,
Okay, so that's where I'm getting confused. So if I purchase one of these, I buy a cab and a chassis or whatever. Inside the door, there's like a little sticker. Which one is that? Is that your gross vehicle weight? or
Yeah,
is
so that'd
that-
be your gross vehicle.
So that is lower typically than what you're saying is on this other document?
so the manufacturer statement of origin is an additional piece of paper. It may also say that on the side of the car, but it's an additional piece of paper that you would, as a purchaser of a truck, you would acquire. And that essentially says what you can put on the back. If you're buying a cab and a chassis, it's just steel on the back. There's nothing on it.
So why would they be different then?
So the shipping weight is the actual weight of the vehicle that's delivered to the truck dealer.
Mhm.
So if you're talking a cab and chassis, it is just the cab, the chassis, and the tires. A
Okay,
gross vehicle weight rating is the amount that you can put on that cab and chassis in order for it to be legal. You couldn't put more than that. You could put
Oh,
less than that.
oh, I thought you got that information from the vehicle basically, because the only reference I have is when you open the door and you look and it's got that info. So that's where I'm getting confused.
So
This is a completely separate document that you would buy probably if you're only a commercial purchaser. So you don't get this if you go to the dealer.
if you're
Okay,
if you're
so
buying
I
a,
was someone who didn't have that piece of paper, how would I prove this information?
I mean, it's it's widely available online, but I mean, the statement of origin would be, or the manufacturer statement of origin would say exactly this vehicle, this VIN number.
So would I need that to get,
Yes.
so this is really only for commercial folks,
Yeah,
which kind of feels like an advantage to commercial folks over, you know what I'm saying?
but we need to establish something that's official document that determines what the weight of that vehicle is.
So if I'm not a commercial hauler, how would I get this documentation to prove it to you? I guess
Can
I'm
I
getting,
chip in on
yeah,
this?
I'm getting a little lost.
I think anybody that buys this, just the cab only with a frame on it, wants to do something else with it, would definitely want that document
Yes,
because they already know what they're gonna do with that
Mhm.
truck and what that weight, how much weight they're putting on it, and how it's gonna end up.
And if I were the welder that was assembling something to go on the back of that chassis.
Right.
I would want to either, I mean,
Have
many of them
yeah.
do the same trucks over and over again, but they would definitely want an MSO to make sure that they are putting it on in accordance with the manufacturer's requirements.
And what you're saying is anybody that is going to add stuff onto the back at the point of purchase, they would ask for this document. So anybody could ask
Yeah,
for this
can like-
document at the rate of,
Yeah,
Yeah.
if they want to pay less, if they want to pay
but
the back
any,
tax.
but anybody for her,
Yeah, that's fine.
for the question that Senator White is asking, anybody that walked into a dealership, I'm buying this, regardless of whether I'm a commercial operator, whoever I am, you can ask for this document.
Yes.
oh, great.
Sure.
Oh.
I'm from Matt Russo, Deputy Commissioner for DMV. It's also available on JD Power. Anybody can look it up and it goes by VIN and everything's all listed there, all the information.
Yeah.
That's the thing, there we go. So I'm like, oh, who's getting, I've never seen this.
That's the birth certificate for the vehicle.
The first, that's, okay, thank you. This makes me feel more comfortable. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Okay, so now we're gonna hear.
go ahead.
Matt is correct. It's from Bill Smith, Vermont Truck and Bus Association. Matt is correct. And, this also, the numbers are easily verifiable by DMV. If somebody comes in and wants to register, a 3/4 ton pickup truck, and it's gonna be, it's gonna show now, your GVWR is 11,500, you're paying full tax. Right? And conversely, if you're buying the cab and chassis that might have a shipping weight of 9,500, 10,000 pounds, but it will say on it, this truck can be configured to haul up to 26,000 pounds, whatever the number is. But that's typically a good range you can figure on, which also makes sense because the way that the federal government classifies vehicles from class 1 through class 10, where it's like a class 8 tractor trailer. Right. Class 3 would be sort of your heavier trucks from 14,000 pounds gross vehicle weight rating up to, I want to say, 18 or 19. I could be wrong. The classifications go 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 above sort of your pleasure car type trucks that you will be capturing here. So somebody's driving around a 3/4 ton pickup truck or a 1 ton pickup truck that's not typically dual rear wheels, they're going to pay full 6% tax on the purchase price. That's the loophole that's being closed here. I don't like to use that word because it's a policy decision made by the legislature over the years that if you want to change it, but don't treat it like it's a sneaky thing because people are following rules. And now they're going to have to follow new rules.
Well,
which seems to be fair to industry.
Yeah,
You can, whatever the rules,
I know.
people look for little ways to take advantage of them.
They won't be able to
Go
take
ahead.
advantage of it anymore.
All right, this is really helpful. So I hope that we could have a example. It sounded like you might have had an example of what is current and what is proposed.
I can give you a verbal example.
Yeah, I would just like to have it.
So
on
for
a
example,
piece of paper.
sure.
Yeah.
Say, one of the members of the retail lumber dealer, RK Miles, they'll buy a chassis and a frame, right? That might weigh 9,500, 10,000 pounds. They're going to take that and put a flatbed on it with a crane that can pick up bundles of sheetrock or hitches of lumber on a job site. So they're going to custom build that above and beyond what they buy from the dealers, one of Matt's dealers. So they're going to get that truck and it's going to have that statement of origin on it that's going to say, this truck weighs 9,800 pounds roughly, gonna have the exact number. You can add to this up to the maximum weight of 26,000 pounds.
If I may, Chair, this is sometimes confusing. So this is a cab and a chassis. This is a
Right.
Freightliner M2.
Okay.
Okay, you can't really, don't get groceries with this. This is something that
Right,
you
you
build on
just
top
look
of.
good when you're
Right.
driving.
But the shipping weight is less than 10,099 pounds.
Right, yeah,
So
because the shipping weight is the actual,
Right.
weight of the
it's a
vehicle.
naked
like-
vehicle,
like
naked
in the-
vehicle with nothing on.
When it's in the, boat coming
Right,
over.
and then, but the gross vehicle weight would then ensure, so someone could legally buy this, pay the max tax, put a plate on it, drive it 2 counties over, put a bed on it or a dump body on it or a tanker on it. And then everything would be legal and it would be effectively paying.
But up until this time, they've not have something official to be able to claim this. This now will say you have to have this document to be legal to claim.
Okay, it would
Does
still,
that-
yeah, well, I think it would still be helpful to just have a an explanation of this in words on a piece of paper, because I think, aren't we dealing with 2 different weights, the weight of the vehicle versus the capacity of
Yes.
the vehicle to haul? So that's where it gets challenging, I think. And-
Yeah. Well, I think that I agree with that. I think that the capacity of the vehicle is the number where the industry's all used to dealing with.
Yeah,
That's what
because you
matters
want to
to
know
us.
how much you can haul.
And you also need to make sure that your brakes and your transmission, your engine are capable of handling whatever you're going to haul the maximum amount.
Right, and that's
To be safe.
actually what is impacting the roads too. So that's what we should care about.
Well,
Yes,
let's
but you
get
pay
down,
less tax
and
if you-
this I'm asking for the
Well,
record.
that's what I wanna.
There's no expectation that this will bring in less revenue.
No.
Okay, well, that's the question.
That's my bottom line, so.
That's
Yeah, yeah. But it certainly won't generate revenue that is,
No, but
Well,
but it'll make it clearer for everybody.
yes, yes. It has benefits.
If I may. Without danger of screwing this up. I think it would bring in some revenue because no one can say, oh, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, I'm gonna have my Ford Maverick or Tacoma, Toyota Tacoma. I'm gonna put a dump body on it, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, I won't pay now we have an official document.
Okay,
Yeah, but you also, they changed that, the DMV changed that policy in January. Isn't that why we're here? So we had closed the loophole already. We're actually in a way kind of like moving it is what it feels like.
It wasn't our, I just want to be clear, it wasn't our intention to, we're closing it for people that were abusing it. We weren't trying to affect industry. And that's where we are
You're,
unintentionally kind of caught some vehicles in that crosshair as we close it. So
okay,
this is clarifying it and it's putting it clearly in document, which we have our draft, which,
So
Oh,
we
you're not
don't have the
removing
draft.
or not draft, sorry,
If-
proposed.
If we could, I think Megan now has it.
Yes.
it's posted online as well.
Okay. Why don't you just email it around to all of us too? So we've got it 2 ways and, but the intention of what, they're working towards, we're comfortable.
yes.
Yes.
Thank you. And, we appreciate you going out and working out something that's working.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And give us the example. Thank you.
And as I said, we will go through the complete draft on, after we have our hearing next week. And my intention will be at that point to ask somebody to make a motion to meet this.
On Wednesday.
Yes.
Yeah.
After we've done the hearing.
Oh, right.
Okay. CDL piece.
Yes, so section 19, which the
In
language
this
starts,
draft is which page?
the language itself really starts on page 25. It starts bottom of 24 on the 25 and the words are there. So this is the emergency exemption here from the CDL requirements. So it notwithstands the rest of the section regarding requiring a CDL and says during a weather-related emergency declared by the governor, an employee of a state agency or a Vermont municipality may operate a commercial motor vehicle with a weight of 26,001 pounds or more without being required to hold a commercial driver's license while the emergency or emergency condition is ongoing if they are expressly permitted to do so pursuant to the terms of the governor's declaration. And so I think this could be a blanket permission. So the governor would say, we're waiving CDL requirements for response to the flooding or the snowstorm. And then the individual is performing official duties or activities related to the execution of emergency governmental functions.
So keep going.
Pursuant to 49 CFR 383.3 D2. And I took that language from New York's law to that creates an exception for state and local emergency employees from the CDL requirements in an emergency situation. And then we've kept the language that was in prior versions requiring a valid operator's license under Vermont or another state's law, and defined weather-related emergency to mean a situation or condition resulting from atmospheric conditions or a weather event that involves significant, imminent, or ongoing risk to public health and safety, infrastructure, or property. So
Go ahead.
Wonder if we're gonna do this if we wanted to limit it to weather-related emergencies. What if there was a non-weather related emergency?
Fire.
That's what we're talking
Yeah.
about, Sarah.
Yeah,
Fire,
that's not wonderful.
Earthquake,
So
unlikely.
There could be, yeah.
in that case,
Direction.
what I would say is that you could say during an emergency declared by the governor, and then redefine emergency to mean a situation or condition that involves significant, imminent, and ongoing risk.
Would it be better to have natural disaster?
Um,
Because natural disaster,
I don't think it's.
that's an earthquake.
Talk about that.
I don't think a fire is a natural disaster.
right, so
It's not for a fire.
there is already,
No,
if I may, there's already an exemption for firefighters and the National Guard from CDL requirements. That's an existing law. So firefighters can drive a large fire truck without having a CDL. National Guard can drive a large military vehicle without having a CDL. This is extending it to other state and local employees to operate other large vehicles in this case. And so these are as we were just talking about, heavy duty vehicles.
You'd have to be especially permitted in the governor's declaration.
Exactly. So the governor would basically have to say that for purposes of this, we're waiving CDL requirements. This is different from a waiver that can be granted under federal regulations for private sector CDL drivers who are bringing supplies in. So for example, after the flooding, the governor already has authority under federal law to waive CDL requirements for private truckers from the hours of service requirements so that they don't have to rest every so many hours, but instead can do more runs in a short period of time. But this is kind of a tailored piece, and I tied it back to the federal regulations too, because there is some ambiguity at the federal level. So if they choose to clarify this one way or the other, this will keep us in line with them without having to revise those. But the question that you could, the New York law, if I remember, it does not say weather-related emergency. So, and I can double check
New
that.
York.
I need two seconds here.
I mean, I think we could just say if you go an emergency declared by the governor.
Strike weather related
Yeah.
and make it just emergency declared by the governor could be invoking.
Well, with the,
Volcano?
yeah, but- but I,
Destroy.
Yeah.
I do wonder in the case of a fire, the government wouldn't probably call an emergency.
Yeah.
Well, if it's like a forest, a large,
Oh.
large.
There could be pandemic, there's all kinds of emergencies.
So
We can let the house go.
New York law,
How-
yeah, New York's law works a little bit differently. They exclude from the definition of commercial motor vehicle, so vehicles where you're required to have a CDL to drive them. What they do, what they say is a vehicle or combination of vehicles owned and identified as being owned by the state or a political subdivision of the state or an ambulance service. Sorry, I have to skip ahead, or emergency medical service. To perform official duties or activities related to the execution of emergency governmental functions pursuant to section 383 D2 of Title 49 of the US Code of Federal Regulations. So they're basically, and then I think as far as the emergency definition, let me pull up that document. So emergency operation is the term they define. And they define that as the operation or parking of an authorized emergency vehicle. Except this is a narrower definition here from a different part of their law, but it includes responding to or working or assisting at the scene of an accident, disaster, police call, alarm, or fire, actual or potential release of hazardous materials or other emergency. It also includes transporting organs for transplant, where undue delay would risk the health and safety of an individual, blood and blood products.
Well, I think
et
we're
cetera.
already saying that has to be a declaration of the governor.
You know,
Just say if the governor declares an emergency, we're not.
and then
Correct.
authorize
Get
it.
rid of weather related.
Yeah, we don't care what.
Sure.
Can I ask a question? So did this kind of legislation come about because of some emergency and then the insurance company wouldn't pay something?
I would ask the DMV. So the original language was proposed by the DMV, and we've been working to just make sure that we true it up with the federal requirements so that we don't end up with the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration citing us, because if they cite you for a violation, they can also try to withhold funding from the state. So we're trying to avoid that issue, but the actual impetus for this, I don't
Yeah.
know. So
We just,
It's
Wait,
just, I mean, I won't, and we need to stay in our lane,
Uh,
the
we're
transportation.
gonna let the
lane.
commissioner make the comment.
All right,
So real fast, Senator, so this came from the agency side of, AOT, and they're not game planning, they were preparing for instances that could additional resources could be needed. So this is where this stemmed from, conversation.
yeah, all right. It just seems there are so many other regulations that you would, in an emergency, you do what you need to do. And trying to define every little bit of thing that,
We're trying to find,
Yeah.
like, in the series of this
it's just.
exercise,
It's just like, if something isn't in here, does that mean that we know that we have to do it and it's not allowed to be ignored in an emergency? This is just the kind of list that can never be comprehensive. But that's okay. I mean,
I think emergency is broader than weather related.
Yeah, yeah.
And in the case of a fire, I want them to be able to move.
And I think they already can, but
well,
some attorney needs this to happen or some insurance company needs this to happen, so. It's okay.
We're a litigious society. Do you want to comment on it?
it is all the attorney's fault.
it's-
So I would just say that the new definition would define emergency to mean a situation, condition, or event that involves significant imminent or ongoing risk to public health and safety, infrastructure, or property. And so it's one of those, and it gives the governor discretion to waive these requirements for public employees only during that event. So it's a broad range of conditions, I think, that involve imminent or ongoing risks. But it's a narrow group of employees, and it has to be following an emergency declaration. So this does become a judgment call. We won't be able to define every category, but now you're not limited to weather related. So for example, we wouldn't have to update this if there's I don't know, a human caused emergency like a fire that requires moving the trucks out of the path of the fire, something like that. And you don't have to parse whether a wildfire that may have been started by someone is a weather related emergency. And yes, we do have wildfire risk.
Sure.
So, but it's like, you know, but this I think is as broad as we can go. This would capture meteor strikes. This would capture the unfortunate instance of an earthquake, a volcano. This would
Oh my
capture. Yeah.
I will just say is, I feel a little touchy about this with representing a town like Johnson with the fire station in the floodplain.
Oh, yeah.
And so I totally get where this is, and I wanna at least,
I'll vote for it.
and I
It's just-
understand where you are.
But
Yeah, but so there could be a private person, not a state employee, who has a CDL. So we couldn't let that person
so there,
drive the truck,
there,
but that's,
part of what we're doing here too is trying to create a path through the federal regulations. The federal regulations say that you cannot have a state employee operate a CDL in these circumstances unless the state has adopted an
all
exemption.
right, so there is.
So there
specifically
there is a
regulation.
legal
Okay.
regulation,
I'm fine.
and I apologize if I was a bit glib a moment ago.
So
But there is a federal regulation that we do have to create a path through
All right,
before we can avoid running afoul of the federal regulations and risking consequences from the feds if they decided to.
that makes sense.
So I think you heard the change suggested by Senator Birchlick.
I have it already marked up in my draft,
Well,
and it'll be in the next version.
it'll be in the clean, and I think we're okay with this.
Yep.
The next thing I had was the draft language around the people that want to hunt and fish in less than 3 feet of water.
Yes.
Okay, that's section 22.
Hey,
I'm just trying to.
Sounds funny, but it makes sense.
That's section 22, which starts on page 31. If my laptop is updating pages fast enough at this point.
Yes.
And the new language is on page 32. Which adds a new subdivision B that says the requirements of this subdivision shall not apply to an individual who is aboard a vessel that is located in water that is not more than 3 feet deep and is actively engaged in hunting or bow fishing and holds a valid permit issued under NVSA Part 4. So the last bit of that language was recommended by Mike O'Grady in our office, who covers hunting and fishing. And so this basically means that you actually have a permit from the state to be hunting and fishing, and then you're engaged in hunting or bow fishing. This will leave out individuals who are fly fishing or lure fishing or otherwise, but it will cover hunting and bow fishing.
Go ahead.
I would just say I am not supportive of this language because I think this group of people also should be wearing life vests, especially people who are duck hunting. I think that group of people, we heard specifically had a death in their community due to drowning during a wintertime event. But if this is important for compromise purposes, I'm willing to accept it. I guess is my point. And I appreciate the conversation.
I do support this language, but I'm just wondering, and I don't think it makes a big difference, but when you say valid permit, it's a license. Does that make any difference? Fishing license, hunting license?
I'll ask Mike. So
I don't care.
I used the language that he gave me, and
Okay.
I'm don't have expertise in that area, but I'll ask him.
So
I don't know if that's a term of art within that
Could be.
title, and we call it a license, but the statute call it a permit.
I have heard one for, one against. Are we as a group okay with this? Okay,
Thank you all for your willing to have it.
Thanks.
next is 23.
K vehicles. Yes, so
Can they go faster than 55?
apparently some of them can.
I never spent so much time on K vehicles. I hardly knew what they were.
We're gonna do it myself.
I thought it was to see that they had little little dump trucks with them. It's like, whoa.
yeah, if I can speak personally for a moment, I think it would be fun to get all the vehicles that we're addressing in this bill, have a day here at the State House.
I don't think any
The
of
split
these
ray
are over,
vehicles.
over 10,900.
Oh, yeah, some big trucks. Could have a State House Touch a Truck Day. That was one of the highlights of being a dad for me. So, anyway, getting back to this. So this would define pleasure car to include K vehicles. And then you'll notice with farm trucks, I've left in the term or K truck. And that is something that I want to highlight because that's a policy choice for you. But what I've done is defined K truck as a K vehicle that's designed, used, or maintained primarily for transportation of property. Because with farm truck, we already call out motor trucks, which are subset of motor vehicles that are different than pleasure cars. And so this is calling out K trucks, which would be the dump truck version or the flatbed version, as opposed to the K vans or the K sedans.
So explain to me, if I get one and I'm gonna go get my fence posts on this, this does what?
So this basically says if you got a K truck, so one of the ones that has a flatbed or other, they have all sorts of different versions.
Yep.
But if you got a K truck that's designed, got the little 2-person cab, and then the rest is for transportation of property in general, that's K truck, can be registered as a farm truck. So you're covered. What this would limit here, and this is the policy decision. So I tried to track the existing law. But what this would limit is, so Senator Perchlik mentioned the little K vans, which are 4-seat and maybe even 6-seat people movers that have the same sort of same dimensions, but it's just maximizing seating within it, and it looks like a van. This would limit you from using that or registering that as a farm truck.
Okay.
You could still register that as a pleasure car for on-road use. So it just separates the
It
the two out.
separates just that piece. Okay.
Yeah,
Cause I can see in these little gate things, if you're an organic vegetable farmer that's going to the farmer's market, one of these would be great.
We've got them.
Yeah.
We're exactly doing that.
And and you could, I think here, you could call, if you have a K vehicle where it's, the front seats and the back is enclosed but for storage, that would fall within the designed, used, or maintained primarily for transportation of property. So,
I think we're ready. I don't hear any opposition to this.
so the next section is also changed. So
Okay.
this has struck the 55 mile an hour limitation.
Yep.
So if you have a K vehicle that can do 80, you can take it on the interstate. If you have a K vehicle that cannot do the minimum speed on the interstate, you cannot go on the interstate. But it would say that a K vehicle registered as a pleasure car would be subject to all the provisions applicable to pleasure cars. K vehicle registered as a farm truck would be subject to all the provisions applicable to farm trucks, and then it prohibits the traffic committee or municipalities from adopting any rules that would have the effect of prohibiting a K vehicle from being operated in the same manners or locations as either a pleasure car or farm truck as applicable. So you can have a universal pleasure car standard. So for example, you can close a street to vehicles like they do on Church Street in Burlington, and that could apply to all of them, but you couldn't just say no K vehicles here. But we're going to let other vehicles in. Does that make sense? So it just prevents you from creating a way around the law where individual municipalities could create a patchwork of where you can and can't have a K vehicle. So
Just a quick question.
Go ahead.
Just about safety. So the pleasure cars, I presume, have more safety requirements than farm.
so with the inspections, there are different.
I mean, you don't have to tell me the
Yeah.
differences because I'm sure there's a lot of them, but just, is that accurate to say?
Farm trucks are limited in where they can be operated, and how they can be operated.
But are there safety improved, like, are the safety regulations
I
higher
If
for the,
the inspection is the same process.
Okay,
so
same
like
safety
seat
inspection.
belts and,
yeah, so they're
Basic
still looking at
stuff.
the equipment.
okay.
And these, yeah, again, these are 25-year-old vehicles or older. So, think trucks from the 90s and cars from the 90s. Think of what you had there, and these have those sort of safety features based on the regulations in Japan at the time generally. So most of these vehicles are Japanese
Right,
in origin.
but they have seat belts. Right?
They have seat belts. Yeah, they may not have the crumple zone that was required at that time. And they're lighter weight vehicles. So they were certified under, is it JDM, I think, not under the Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards. So it's a little bit different, that the federal law allows them to be imported if they're at least 25 years old.
Okay, thank you.
So
now
this is in.
that's okay.
Is there anything else that we?
We're going to skip over inspection manual, and then that brings us to the last couple sections, which are what are being termed limited use specialty vehicles. This is the split ray
Oh.
and other vehicles like that. So we're adding a new definition of limited use special vehicle. Or this draft adds a new definition of limited use specialty vehicle, which is a motor vehicle that is either built by a manufacturer that manufactures not more than 325 vehicles per year for sale in the US. So that brings it under the federal regulations related to limited manufacturer, or an individual and not for resale. So built by an individual and not for resale. So this would be a kit car, that sort of thing. It is maintained solely for occasional transportation, including exhibitions, club activities, parades, tours, and other similar uses, and not used for daily transportation. And so that tracks our exhibition vehicles, which are like your antique Model Ts and Model As and other older cars that folks will keep, and they'll bring them out occasionally, but they're not using them as a daily driver. And then we're adding a new section, or the draft adds a new section. I'm really trying hard to stop saying we. So
Yeah, we got to get through this. So
yeah, and this would say that the commissioner can register not more than 20 limited use specialty vehicles per year. And then a vehicle that's been registered as a limited use specialty vehicle shall not be permitted to be registered as any other type of vehicle. The intent of that language is to prevent you from registering it as a limited use specialty vehicle in year one, and then registering it as a pleasure car 20 years down the road if there's an exception for once you get past like the emissions exceptions or something like that. The annual fee is the same as for exhibition cars, $26 for registration. And then a vehicle registered under that section could be used on public highways, again, in the exhibitions, etc. And then for occasional transportation of passengers or property, not to exceed 1 day per week. So you can take it out on Sunday drives. And I did use the public highways language to avoid limiting or having this be able to be read to, like, for example, with something like the split ray, limit someone using it at a track day or something like that.
So why would we give this have a not a lower number for manufacturing that manufacturers of vehicles, the 325 versus the 20? Why?
So the 325 tracks with the federal exception that was enacted in 2015 for the low volume motor vehicle manufacturers.
Okay.
And so that is just tracking that number. The limited registrations in Vermont would allow the manufacturer to sell cars in throughout the country.
Up to 20.
But in Vermont, you can register up to 20, and that could be a few kit cars. It could be 1 or 2 of these specialty manufactured vehicles, etc. But it means that there's
But what it basically means is they can't sell more than 20 a year any place.
in Vermont.
Okay.
They can, so your Roth Speed could still sell cars for registration in other states. And they can figure that out, but they can't have more than, like, they could register up to 20 of their cars a year in Vermont. But if there are other folks registering these specialty vehicles, for example, say you buy a Rennsport Porsche or something like that, which is another resto mod, you could register, that would count against the 20 limit for the state. So the registration limit is all of these cars for the state per year. And it gets to the next section where on inspections, the proposal is to do safety inspections, but not emissions inspections on these. And so you will likely want a reaction from ANR on that.
Just one quick question as we go on, but.
Yep.
So reading this, they can manufacture and register up to 20 cars
In Vermont.
in Vermont,
So
but they
if they're
can't
selling
sell
them,
them. They can sell.
they can sell them in Vermont. They
Okay,
can register up to 20 in Vermont. They could manufacture and then sell and register in other states.
Yeah.
So you deliver the car on flatbed to Florida or California. Other states that allow these cars to be registered, they can do that within that state's law. But the 325 is tracking. We're just trying to define these manufacturers consistent with the low volume motor vehicle manufacturers provision that was enacted in federal law for the purposes of emissions and other certifications that they have to do federally. And then the registration in Vermont, and this tracks what some other states do, is they limit the registrations of these vehicles in their state per year so that the impact on state emissions and so forth is kept at a relatively de minimis level, or the minimal level.
okay.
Yeah.
So I thought I remember they had a problem with titling these things, but that either that's not a problem or this doesn't. affect-
So this, I am not sure what impact this will have on titling the vehicles. This is the language I was asked by the chair to work with, Justin Johnson, who is the lobbyist who was in here on this, to come up with language, and this is what we came up with. I've deliberately been silent on the federal emissions because Vermont can't change the federal or California emission standards. So they'll still have to comply with those if they want it to be registered for street use. They could still sell a car that's a track
I
car.
have an issue about getting a title for these manufactured.
I don't know that there is, but
Plus another year, there is.
Okay.
yeah,
And yeah, I would,
this is specifically calling out that you can register it.
yeah,
Um,
that's fine. Now, I guess for the emissions inspection, yeah, I'd want
Yeah.
to know why we do, because we already have the number of years, 16 years. But if it's an older vehicle, which I assume it'd still be an older vehicle, even if it's remade, it's already
Right.
exempt from
And
emissions.
one of the things that we saw, if you had a chance to read some or all of the report on the specialty vehicles, is so there are different pathways already for them to get a VIN on these cars. And with the emissions, there are various requirements that are already out there under either federal or California law. So you can have, for example, a compliant engine, an exhaust system, but it has to have all the components and they have to be installed in a certain way. And we can't change that for compliance purposes. Or there are other ways they can do the certification. There are third-party labs, although I understand that's very expensive. But I've deliberately left the language silent because Vermont, our DMV, no matter what we want, we can't change those certifications. We have to follow either the EPA or the California certifications.
Okay. As long as that, we wouldn't want this to be a loophole.
Yeah.
No.
But what this is doing is it would take them out of the emissions inspection. And I can't speak to what impact that might have on our state implementation plan or SIP or et cetera. So, this is where there's language here for a reaction from ANR and from DMV.
Yeah.
So.
And it does say, the commissioner says the commissioner not more than. What do we think? We've been around this one.
Yeah, I think for me, it satisfies all the questions we had before.
As long as they can get a Vermont title.
Right.
And I thought they wanted to have a Vermont VIN number, whatever, if that's the thing.
I think we've heard from, the representative for the car company, that they're good with this. And,
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll come back.
Sure.
I'm sure they'll put a VIN number on it too, now that they can.
Yeah.
Actually register it.
Yeah.
We get okay to go with
Yeah,
this?
yeah. Thank you.
All right.
The last section is the effective dates, and the only different effective dates are the ID sections for detainees. All right. Thank you for bearing with me.
Thanks for your work.
Like one.
Out there, that was
We-
it's a short 38 pages. So I think we're shorter than last year. Okay.
Well, we're not done yet.
Let's work on quality.
We are gonna have to deal with inspections.
Yes.
Could you check and see if there's any active volcanoes?
Mount Bruneau.
There are not, but we do have an inactive fault line where the Connecticut River is.
We've got
So-
somebody.
Yeah, that's a whole different.
There's
If
yeah.
she could wait, then we'll do her after the next one, because we've got a gap from 10:30 to 11:30.
Oh.
So if that. Where did?
go, she stepped out.
Huh?
So we're still live.
All right, you've got 3 minutes to get.
Do we want, you want me?
No, we'll wait our 3 minutes. It just,
What are you waiting? Is this-
we've got 2 bills to take up. 2 bills that are on the wall.
Our first witness is not.
Us?
Our first witness is
the railroad one?
Yeah, Martine is not, what I thought was, we let the person that's gonna be on the screen go, because they're at 10:15, and then we'll go find Martine.
It's also,
Can we go offline for a second?
we can't, that's the issue, we're making.
Oh, can I see you in the?
Hang on, let's, that's.
Oh, no. I feel like this is more dangerous. No, no.
Let's just go. It'll just take 5 minutes or 2 minutes. 1 minute.
Well, we're live, but we're not.
2 minutes.
Okay.
Your chart, let's pass it. Got a quorum.
I think that's the other day. I left.
Good point.
Do you wanna